Imagine that you're Jesus Christ, and imagine that you have to share the gospel of your business far and wide. And imagine that you have 12 disciples who are all sharing the gospel of your business. And imagine that you have to feed and nurture each one of those 12 disciples with your loaves and fishes. So the way that I refer to disciples are people who have the same target audience as you, but they're not in direct competition. So imagine that you're a wedding planner, just for ease, and imagine that your disciples are people like cake makers, photographers, venues, wedding dress providers. So you get the idea. They are all looking for brides, but that you don't have them in competition. So your job is to feed and nurture each one of these disciples. And by that I mean collaborate with them. Perhaps if you're a wedding photographer, you might want to give them a couple of professionally produced photographs for their shop window. Or you might want to put an event together and pull together all those different disciples so that you're developing a relationship with them and you're becoming their best friend. What happens then is that you will become the go-to person because of the relationship that you've developed with them. So that's the offline version, you know, the face-to-face networking-y type stuff. So when you're in a room of networkers, you know automatically who your disciples are and you will gravitate towards them. The online stuff are things like connecting up with that list of disciples on Twitter and building a list, a directory of those types of people. People who you would recommend and people who would recommend you. Online, they're called affiliates, and you might want to get in touch with them to ask if they would go out and recommend you through their list, through their data. And this is where the power is, because if you had put together a little info video, or perhaps you're doing a little workshop, then you could ask them if they would mind sending out a link to their connections to help connect up to you. And as a thank you, you might want to give them a percentage of the revenue. And there's a way that you can track that, particularly through ClickFunnels, because they provide affiliate links. So that's why I was referring to them as affiliates. So it just depends what type of business you've got as to how you want to develop these lists of affiliates. I've seen some amazing companies do some really smart thinking. So let's say, for example, you were targeting business owners. Perhaps you might want to put together, find a couple of affiliates who have the same target audience in mind and put on a workshop where there's 3 of you, where you might do 20 minutes each. You're connecting into their lists and they're connecting into yours. And together you've got a much bigger clout because you've got a bigger audience, you've got a more diverse audience, but they're all the same target audience. And put together a really interesting sort of breakfast networking event or an evening networking event. I'm just in the process of doing something like that at the moment and I'm really excited about it. You might be interested in coming along.